Hi, my name is Sydney Jones, and this is my restorative justice presentation. In order to talk about restorative justice and the positives and the possible negatives and my side on it, I first need to address what restorative justice is. So, restorative justice focuses on repairing harm done to students by teachers, and to teachers by students. Instead of focusing on sending the students home, suspension, and detention, we are really encouraging the students to heal within themselves so that they don't repeat the behavior. So that is, and teaching the children accountability. Um, Children need to take accountability for their own actions without just being able to be sent home. Because a lot of times when students are sent home, they are not getting the accountability. They're sometimes rewarded, and they don't necessarily understand what they did is necessarily a bad thing. They just get to go home. And um, restorative justice also focuses on dialogue and inclusion. So these students are really being able to talk through their feelings, talk through their emotions, and being told why, or um, kind of figure out and get to the root of the problem instead of just focusing on the behavior itself. And then also community involvement. So that is going to be getting the entire classroom together, really talking through their feelings and emotions, and kind of allowing students to, like I said, get to the bottom of their issues instead of just allowing them to have to be focused on their behaviors. Promoting positive relationships. So this is one of the major things. The reason why it's the number one on my slide is because this is one of the biggest um, positives for using restorative justice in the classroom. So it promotes positive relationships and behaviors between students and teachers. A lot of times when a teacher is just telling the student to go to the office, or they are suspending or giving detentions, and they're using punishments that are kind of antiquated in a lot of school systems. These students are lashing back out at the teachers, and the behavior continues to happen. Um, it also kind of gives a shared community and responsibility. So these students are really getting closer with their peers and kind of giving each other what's happening and talking and getting to the bottom of it. And, a lot of times when a student has a behavior that they're having, they don't necessarily or realize that it could be that they didn't get enough sleep in the morning. They had a problem with Becky last class period. And that is what's going on because we're not addressing um, the students that are really needing to get to the bottoms of their feelings and emotion. And it teaches the children empathy and positive learning environment. So these students, whenever they're having their behaviors, they're not really seeing the outcome of the victim that is, that they've been mean to, that they've bullied. They they're not seeing the outcome, the negative effect of how their mistreatment is affecting the other party. And it also creates a positive learning environment. If we're using restorative justice in a positive way, in the correct way, then we are promoting these students to be able to feel like they are in a positive environment, and therefore they're going to be able to learn if they feel safer. It also reduces the likelihood of repeat behavior. That is focusing on the root of the issue. What is making that student cause, or what is making that student have those issues? What is making the student lash out? What is making the student act in the way that they are acting? If we're just sending them home, we're not really getting to the root of the issue. Why are they acting this way? Why are they being a bully to that particular student? Um, so if we focus on the root of the issue, we therefore are able to reduce the problems that are happening. And it causes the students to reflect on their own behavior. Well, I did something bad and I made somebody else feel bad, and that is accountability for that own student. And it gives better outcomes and behavior modification. So these students that we're just sending out of the classroom, we're sending home, they're repeat offenders, they're having all of these problems every single day in the same classroom. Well, if we focus instead on the root of the issue and we nip it in the bud as it's going, per se, then it's going to allow for better behavior in that classroom and possible um, there is a possibility that these students aren't going to be repeat offenders. However, there are some negatives outcomes that could happen if we were to implement restorative justice. If all the teachers, every single teacher in that school district, in that building, are not receiving the proper training, um, and realize which students are going to be causing these issues, then they are not going to um, be able to handle it in an adequate way. So these teachers need specialized training. We need to all get together. We all need to be involved in this. And even if one teacher decides that they're going to go against it, then it's not going to work for the entire school. So teachers may also struggle to implement these strategies. We may struggle figuring out which students it would work with, where we draw the line, and we can't come in the middle of the year and be like, "Hey, I'm going to start using restorative justice," when that student is used to just being sent out of the classroom every 5 seconds. And like I said, it may confuse the students. So these students may be like, "Well, what the heck," especially if our teachers don't know exactly what we're talking about, and how we're going to be implementing these things. So there is also a potential misuse. So these need to be properly tailored for each student. Each student has different needs, different resources, different things that are not being met. And it could cause to where these teachers are just, well, this may happen. So the students are going to be like, oh, well, this teacher doesn't know what they're talking about, so we're going to be able to do whatever we want. So students have to feel safe in the environment that they're in. They have to trust their teacher, because if their teacher is not trusted, then these restorative justice things are not going to work, and they may not be able to open up to them and tell them exactly how they're feeling. So, with that being said, in my classroom, I try to use a form of it. I've learned a lot this semester. However, instead of just, sending them out every single time that they're doing something, I pull them out, I talk to them, I'm like, hey, you know, that was kind of uncool. Maybe next time we don't do that. Um, I I understand. I try to get to the root of it. What I plan to implement in the following year is I would like, to have the students talk to each other. And I've done it a couple times where, I see that a student that usually they get along, I pull them over into like another part of my classroom and I'm like, hey, you guys, this really isn't cool that you guys are acting this way to each other. Maybe there's a reason. Is something going on? Maybe we can talk this out and kind of figure out what's going on. And, I have seen the positive potential for restorative justice. Um, I don't know how to get other teachers on board. I've tried to talk to a couple that I think would be using it well. We do use a form. It's called Love and Logic. There's positive and negatives with everything. Especially, we've got a couple teachers that just flat out refuse to use it. And it's hard for the kids to go from one classroom that's not using it, that's just they can tell that they don't feel welcomed in that classroom. They don't feel comfortable. They're not learning very much. And then they come to other classrooms and they feel like they're in a safer environment. And so it's hard for them to, they're kind of getting confused where we draw the line. Um, and it just, that's where we're at. And in my classroom, I do plan on using it. I do plan on utilizing the restorative justice more. However, and my questions just, It is, where are we at? How do I help people? How do I help other teachers see the positives of it? And without being too pushy for them to change their ways, especially since they've been teaching for a while, where do we go from there? But all right, thank you very much.